By age 13, an Amish teenager has already learned more about money than most adults ever will. No finance class, no YouTube channel, no budgeting app. Just 10 rules passed down inside the home, learned through daily life, and fully absorbed before formal schooling even ends. You work before you earn. The first rule is not about money. It is about what comes before money. Amish children begin contributing to the household and the farm long before any paycheck exists, feeding animals, tending the garden, cleaning, carrying, building. The work is not optional, and it is not rewarded with an allowance. It is simply expected because the family needs it. By the time an Amish teenager earns their first dollar, they already understand something most adults never fully grasp. Money is the result of labor, not the other way around. Your paycheck is not yours. When formal work begins, typically right after 8th grade, somewhere around 13 or 14 years old, the Amish teenager starts earning a real paycheck. And then something happens that would make almost any modern teenager furious. They hand most of it over. The arrangement, practiced across Amish communities and described by Amish families themselves, works roughly like this. The teenager keeps 10% of each paycheck for personal spending. The remaining 90% goes to the parents, who hold it in a bank account on the teenager's behalf. That account grows for years, through every shift, every season, every paycheck, until the young person turns 21. At that point, the entire accumulated balance is handed over. Not borrowed back. Handed over in full as a foundation for the adult life that is just beginning. Debt is a dead horse. Before an Amish teenager ever signs anything, they have already heard the lesson about debt. And in Amish communities, it is not delivered as a financial tip. It is delivered as a moral statement. The phrase they grow up hearing, and that has been traced back through Amish tradition for generations, is this: paying interest is paying for a dead horse. You already consumed the thing. You already spent the value. And now you are paying month after month for something that is giving you nothing in return. A dead horse. One Amish bishop summarized the community's view plainly. Buy now, pay later doesn't really work. For the Amish, debt is not a tool to be managed carefully. It is something to be avoided entirely, not because it is impractical, but because it represents a failure of patience and discipline that the community considers a character flaw, not just a financial one. Children absorb this before they ever have money to borrow against. Timely pay. This rule has a name attached to it. Amish Bishop Ephraim Lapp put it this way: paying someone late is an extension of the commandment, do not steal. His exact words have been quoted and passed around for years because they are precise in a way that is hard to argue with. If it is due on the 10th and you pay it on the 15th, you have stolen 5 days of that man's money. Not borrowed it, stolen it, because he had no choice in the matter. You took the use of his money without his permission and without compensation. For the Amish, a reputation for paying on time is not a financial strategy, it is a moral obligation, placed in the same category as honesty and fairness. Banks in Amish communities have noted that bad debt among Amish borrowers is nearly unheard of. Not because the Amish have more money than other people, but because defaulting on a debt is considered one of the most serious failures of character a person can demonstrate. This lesson is learned before a teenager signs their first agreement of any kind. Want versus need. In the modern world, the question most people ask before buying something is, can I afford this? The Amish teenager is taught to ask a different question entirely. Do I actually need this? The distinction sounds simple. In practice, it is one of the most difficult financial disciplines a person can develop because the entire structure of modern advertising is built around collapsing the difference between want and need, making every want feel urgent and justified and reasonable. The Amish have no television, no targeted social media ads, no influencer culture telling them what they should want next. That absence is not accidental, it is protective. A teenager who has never been told 500 times a day that their life would be better with the newest version of something has a much clearer view of what they actually need. And so the question, want or need, gets asked constantly about clothing, tools, food, household items, any purchase of any size. It is not a question reserved for big decisions. It is a habit, practiced daily until it becomes instinct. By the time an Amish teenager becomes an adult, they have asked that question thousands of times and made thousands of small decisions that added up amount to a fundamentally different relationship with money than the one most people in the modern world ever develop: learning the business. When school ends, and for the Amish, school ends after 8th grade. At around 13 or 14, the real education begins. Every Amish young person enters an apprenticeship. They follow a skilled adult and learn a trade: carpentry, farming, welding, construction, cabinet making, harness work, masonry, or one of dozens of other skilled occupations that sustain the community. This is not a summer job. It is a vocational foundation, the beginning of the skill set that will provide income for the rest of their life. And the Amish understand something about skilled trades that the modern economy has spent decades trying to relearn. A skill cannot be taken from you. You can lose a job. You can lose a business. You can lose your savings in a bad year. But the ability to frame a house or build a cabinet or repair an engine that knowledge lives in your hands, it cannot be repossessed. It does not depreciate. And in the Amish world, where business success rates hover around 95%, nearly double the national average, that foundation of practical skill is one of the primary reasons why. The teenager who enters an apprenticeship at 13 is not falling behind their peers. They are building something their peers won't have access to for years, if ever. Buy used items. Full price is the last resort. This is not a rule born out of poverty, it is a rule born out of philosophy. The Amish view paying full retail price for something available secondhand is wasteful, and in a community where waste is considered a moral failure as much as a financial one, that matters. Amish families are known to frequent thrift stores, salvage stores, and community auctions as their first and preferred shopping destinations. They buy high-quality used items, repair them to functional condition, and treat them as good as new, because in practical terms, they are. The idea that something must be new to have value is an idea the Amish find genuinely puzzling. In their world, a well-made tool that has been used for 20 years and repaired twice is more valuable than a new tool of inferior quality because it has already proven what it can do. This philosophy extends to clothing, furniture, farm equipment, and household goods. An Amish teenager learns to evaluate a used item to look for quality of construction, assess what repair it might need, and judge whether the price reflects fair value. That is a skill. And it is a skill that most people raised in a culture of new, shiny, disposable consumer goods never fully develop, which is one of the reasons the average Amish household accumulates far more real wealth than their income level would suggest possible. Fix things before replacing. When something breaks in an Amish household, the first response is never to throw it away. Clothing worn down to the last thread is cut into cleaning rags before it is discarded. Tools are repaired before replacement is even considered. Furniture is mended, re-glued, refinished, and used for another generation. The philosophy behind this is simple but profound. Everything has a useful life, and it is a failure of stewardship to end that useful life prematurely because repair requires effort. The Amish call this using something up a phrase that implies the obligation to extract every bit of value from everything you own before it leaves your hands. For a teenager growing up in this environment, repair is not a last resort, it is the first response. They learn early that the ability to fix something, a fence, a harness, a piece of equipment, a piece of clothing, is itself a form of wealth. Every repair is money that does not get spent. And the discipline of repair builds something else, a relationship with the things you own that the modern world of disposable goods makes nearly impossible. When everything is cheap enough to throw away, nothing is valued. When everything is worth repairing, you develop a fundamentally different relationship with what you own and what it took to acquire it. An Amish teenager who has repaired their own boots 3 times before their 14th birthday understands the value of $1 in a way that cannot be taught in a classroom. Save with a goal. The Amish do not save money in the abstract. They save towards something specific, a farm of their own, a business, a house paid for in cash. The savings account that accumulates through their teenage years, the 90% of every paycheck held by parents until age 21, is not just a number growing on a page. It is a foundation with a purpose, and that purpose is known, discussed, and kept in view from early on. This is one of the most important financial habits the Amish teach, and one of the least common in the modern world. Most people who save money save with a vague sense that they should, that having money in the bank is better than not having it. The Amish save toward a clearly defined destination, and that destination changes everything about how savings feels. When you know what you are building toward, every paycheck handed over is not a sacrifice. It is a contribution towards something you can picture and name. By the time an Amish young person reaches 21 and receives the accumulated balance, they have known for years what that money is for. They are not suddenly handed a windfall and forced to decide in the moment what to do with it. The plan is already made. The goal was set years earlier during the same apprenticeship that taught them the skills they will use to pursue it. The savings and the skill arrive together at exactly the moment the adult life requires them. Community as a safety net. This is the rule that holds all the others together, and it is the one that has no equivalent in any personal finance book written for the modern world. The Amish do not rely on government safety nets. They do not carry commercial insurance. They do not pay into Social Security, and yet there are no homeless Amish people. No Amish person has ever gone without food or shelter because of a financial crisis. Not because they are all wealthy, but because the community around them functions as a safety net that no insurance policy can replicate. A teenager growing up in this system does not just observe it, they are part of it. They watch their family contribute to the deacon's collection for a neighbor in trouble. They carry food to the home of a family that has suffered a loss. They show up to the barn raising with their father and work through the day without being asked twice. And they understand at a level that is never made explicit because it does not need to be, that this is not charity, it is a cycle. The contribution they make today is the contribution someone else will make for them on the day they need it. Every Amish teenager learns this not from a lesson, but from participation. They are embedded in the system before they fully understand what the system is, and by the time they do understand it, they are already building the habits that will sustain it for the next generation. Here is what an Amish young person has at 21 that most of their non-Amish peers do not. They have a trade, a real practical skill developed over 7 years of apprenticeship that can generate income in any economic condition. They have saving 7 years of 90% of every paycheck, accumulated steadily, now in their hands and already allocated toward a specific goal. They have no debt because they were taught before they ever had money that debt is a dead horse, and they believed it. They have a reputation for paying on time, working hard, and keeping their word that functions as a form of social currency in the community where they will spend their adult lives. And they have a community behind them, a network of people who have already demonstrated in their own lives that they will show up when things go wrong. No financial planning software produces this outcome. No investment account at 21 replicates it. What produces it is 10 rules absorbed over 14 years of daily life inside a community that treats financial discipline not as a lifestyle choice, but as a moral obligation and a spiritual practice. The Amish did not invent these rules to produce wealthy individuals. They invented them to produce a community that could sustain itself without depending on anything outside it. The fact that those rules also happen to produce extraordinary individual financial outcomes, no debt, real skills, real savings, real community, is not a coincidence. It is the point. Every teenager learns it before 14. Most of them live by it for the rest of their lives.